Past life karma. An 11-year-old girl ascended the steps to my home. She looked pristine in her tidy jeans and winter jacket. Her trainers were neatly laced too. She stood upright as if she had been trained to. You could almost mistake her for an ordinary girl attending school, were it not for the serrated blade in her left hand. I could smell blood on it. Mortimer stood beside me. Normally, he would go over and introduce himself to the young lady, but he thought better of it today. Wise choice. "Hello, Teresa. Please come in and take a seat," I said. Teresa looked at the sea of black mist. She averted her eyes to the giant crescent moon in the sky. "Does it ever get sunny here?" "The moon will become full soon. It is not due for a while," I said. Teresa shook her head. I gestured to the open door. She marched in and sat on the armchair closest to the door. She put the knife on the table beside her and pushed back in the armchair until her back was touching the backrest. Her feet hung off the edge of the chair. I entered the lounge and sat down. Mortimer was already in his usual spot, beside the fireplace, head on paws, eyes on Teresa. "What now?" Teresa said. I watched her. She grinned. Judy, that's my foster mum, was sat on the floor loading the washing machine. She was telling me off for not bringing my laundry down to her. She kept saying that I'd like to be smartly dressed, but my room was messy. I was a slob, as far as she's concerned. I knew what was going to happen to me next. "Look." Teresa leaned to the side and pulled her top up, revealing a large bruise beneath her ribcage. "No one will see it there," she said. Pulling her top down, she took a minute to adjust it before settling back against the backrest. Upright. I was ready. I had already taken her bra out of the laundry basket when she wasn't looking. She turned back to the washer. Rip. I wrapped her bra around her neck and pulled it back. Yank. She pulled back. A hand kept reaching for my head, but I was too low. I held her there, just making funny noises. Teresa smiled. Her eyes were older than her face. I dug my elbow into her back to stop her reaching me. She stopped trying to reach me after a while. Her hand flopped down. She made that hiccup sound and flipped forward. I let go, or I'd fall on her. She lay there like a dead fish. Teresa looked at the fireplace. I knew he would get me. Teresa got off the chair again and pulled her jean leg up to expose her left calf. "Look, do you see these burns? Brian, my foster dad, did this with a cigarette. Here." She pulled her jean leg up further. He whacked me with a set of pliers. Teresa pulled down her jean leg. Again, taking a minute to make sure she was neat. She sat down, drawing back against the back of the chair. Brian was in the garage working on his old car. He always did that on weekends. I knew he would find out about Judy and then hurt me, so I crept into the garage and found his knife. Teresa picked up the long serrated knife and showed it to me. He always kept it wrapped in a cloth with his hunting rifle. I got it out and hid it behind my back, waiting till he crouched down to get under the car. I shoved my knife in his neck. He tried to throw me off, but I held on, pushing further, further, my stomach on the blade. Teresa watched the flames dancing in the logs, as if in a trance. She snapped out of it and pulled her jacket straight, despite it already being straight. I went back into the kitchen. Only Emma, the social worker, was there. I told her it was self-defense, but she wouldn't believe me. She was calling the police. I stabbed her in the leg. She whacked me, knocking my head against the cupboard. The glass bowl fell off the top and smashed my head. Hamish, a ginger cat, sauntered into the lounge. He leapt onto my armrest and made himself comfortable. He looked at me and gave a nod. I returned the gesture. Teresa watched him and sat there. She turned in her seat and lifted her hair up to show me the deep gash in the back of her neck. It was raw. I still had the knife in my hand. Don't remember much after that, she said. What about the boy at school? A voice said from my waiting room. Please come into the lounge, I said. Emma, the social worker, walked into the lounge, dressed in a grey suit, type that civil servants wear. She halted when she saw Teresa, despite knowing she would be there. Emma came over to me and handed me a tiny item that I clasped in my hand. She turned to Teresa. There is evil in you, I'm sure of it. I was defending myself. What do you expect me to do? Teresa said. Self-defense? What about your sister's boyfriend? Your dad? The janitor at the childcare facility? All self-defense? They were hurting me, Teresa said. I told you, gatekeeper. She's evil, and she needs to be dealt with. I'm not sure she's evil, but she will be dealt with, I said. She gets away with it again. Thank you for coming. Hamish will see you out, I said. Emma left, walking back into the waiting room. Hamish jumped off the chair and followed her. Teresa watched me. I leaned towards Teresa. I held out a small figure in pristine condition. It was a tiny soldier standing to attention, sharply dressed. Do you remember this? Teresa looked at the soldier. A second set of eyes came into focus next to her eyes. They peered at the soldier. That's mine. I want it back. Teresa snatched at the soldier, but I had already closed my hand and placed it on my lap. You give that back to me, Teresa said. Her face morphed into that of a 13-year-old boy, deep-set eyebrows and a gaunt face. You can have it once you answer a few questions, I said. He glared at me. Mortimer growled. Remain seated and you'll be safe. What was your name before it was Teresa? Noah. Now give it back. My mum gave that to me. Teresa shot her hand out, palm open. What did you do to your father, Noah? Teresa tapped the armrest with her fingers. I stuck him with a kitchen knife, just like this one. Teresa grabbed the knife. Was only 9 at the time. He was a mean bastard. He'd wail on my mum all the time, and when he was done with her, he'd come looking for me. She tried to protect me, but he'd just bash her head against the counter. When he grabbed me, he didn't hit me, but he stuck his fingers where they shouldn't go, and he'd just laugh. He could do what he wanted to us, and we couldn't do anything about it. So I got him while he was sleeping, took a kitchen knife and gutted him. Teresa looked at the flames in the fireplace. Mum said she did it, so they came and took her away and stuck me in a home. Teresa grinned. Another boy tried to mess with me. Lunchtime, so I stuck him deep in his ribs, but his friends grabbed me. One of them pushed me onto my knife. After that, I don't know. I woke up and I was her. I was a little girl. Didn't mean that I was taking any shit from anyone. Still, I took care of myself. I shook my head. I leaned forward and gave Teresa the miniature soldier. Come with me. I stood up. Teresa got up and straightened her clothes, standing upright. Mummy's little soldier, I said. That's what my mum used to call me, Teresa said. She looked at the knife. I nodded. She picked up the knife. I strode out the door, followed by Teresa. Mortimer fell in behind her. I walked past the twin redwood doors, one opposite the other, and stopped at the next door on the right. I opened it to reveal a cobbled path that led to a tree that rose to the sky. It was majestic, as if time had taken form. At its base, the path forked into 2 trails, both heading deep into a live volcano. Rivers of lava flowed around both paths. Black steam rose to tarnish the sky above. Do you see that temple way in the distance on the peak beyond the volcano? I said. Teresa nodded. You need to go there. It won't be easy, but the Universal Mother waits for you there. Keep the temple in your sight and her in your heart, and you will prevail. Keep walking. Do not stop, for many are already lost here. Teresa looked ahead. She looked at me. I nodded. Teresa walked down the path towards the tree. Once she reached there, her form split. Noah walked the path to the right, as she strode down the path to the left, both heading deep into the volcano. As nature has it, it will get worse before it gets better. I closed the door and returned to my lounge. I sat down. Hamish, the old soul, was kind enough to have a glass of single malt whiskey waiting for me. I took a sip and watched the flames dance on the logs. It has been a while since I opened that door. Halfway House 17 is for preternatural creatures and their ilk. Human souls rarely come here. When they do, like today, I show them that door, for it leads to where all human souls go after they die. They need to walk past the tree and down into the volcano to progress. Noah and Teresa were not evil as Emma suggested. Noah had a tough upbringing, and it resulted in his premature death. He took birth again as Teresa, only remembered who he was and how he was treated, though he lashed out time after time with fatal consequences to those in Teresa's life. The Divine Mother has us forget our past lives. There is good reason for it. Were Teresa born, like most, unable to remember her past life, she would have had a clean slate and the opportunity to make better choices. She could have gone down the same path as Noah, yes, but she could also choose not to. Her remembering being Noah, she had no choice, and she continued her violent actions. As it is said in a holy book from your world, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Teresa did terrible things, remembering one past life. Imagine if you could remember them all. How much baggage and anger would you carry around with you and dish it out at the first opportunity? The situation with Teresa and Noah was nature's design turned in on itself. With austere practice and focus on the self, you too could remember all your past lives. A sage who could remember his past lives described it once as feeling without limit. Something just on the other side of time. I would suggest you focus on the life you have now. Forget the past, as you cannot change it. Live in the moment. Take time to watch the day go by and marvel at how the sun lights up the world. See the distinctive colors and hues. Listen, and the wind will talk to you. Do this, and you will begin to live fully. You will appreciate more than you fathom, and you will make better choices. This too leads to feeling without limit. Until next time, stay safe and don't die in your sleep. Godspeed.